gospel and established churches. These specially commissioned disciples are called apostles. Circa 33. A blinding light stops the Jewish religious leader Saul of Tarsus on his way to Damascus, where he was going to arrest Christians. Jesus commissions him to take the gospel to other nations outside Israel. Saul changes his name to Paul. 49. The apostles hold a church council in Jerusalem. They discuss how God has fulfilled his promises of creating for himself a people of all nations, not just Jews. 64. Nero blames the Christians for a fire that burned much of Rome. He cruelly persecutes Christians in Rome. 177. Pressed by the people of Lyon, in today's France, the Roman government imprisons, tortures, and kills many Christians. 249. The first general persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire under Emperor Decius occurs. 301. King Tiridates III of Armenia proclaims Christianity as the state religion, making Armenia the first official Christian country. 303. The worst persecution against Christians starts during the reign of Diocletian. Why persecution? If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you, Jesus told his disciples in John chapter 15, verse 20. His words proved true soon after he returned to heaven at the end of his earthly mission, as we read in the book of Acts. The early Christians were persecuted by Jewish leaders who didn't recognize Jesus as the Messiah, Savior, their scriptures, what Christians know as the Old Testament, had predicted. Many Jews thought Jesus was lying about being the Son of God. They also thought the idea of the God who had made the heaven and the earth, dying on a Roman cross, the most humiliating and cruel punishment at that time, was outrageous and offensive. That was not the Messiah they had been expecting. They wanted a strong man who could deliver them from the Romans who had taken over their land. The Greeks and Romans were used to stories of men like Hercules becoming gods through acts of courage and strength. But the story of the God who became man and died a shameful death like a common criminal seems so foolish that they made it the subject of cartoons. Most of the time, however, Greeks and Romans allowed people to practice other religions. They had many different gods and adopted gods from other nations. They even respected the Jews for their ancient religion. Christianity instead looked like a new religion with strange teachings and ceremonies that were easily misunderstood. For example, when in the Last Supper Christians repeated Jesus' words that the bread is his body and the wine is his blood, the Romans called them cannibals. The Romans became particularly concerned when the Christians refused to worship other gods. Often, if a disaster struck, the Romans blamed the Christians for angering the gods. And when the Romans required people to worship the spirit of the emperor's household as a god, the Christians' refusal to do so was seen as a rebellion against the government. The earliest known wide persecution of Christians in Rome was started in the year 64 by Emperor Nero, who blamed them for a fire that destroyed much of the city. Most of the time, however, it was the common people who complained about Christians to the authorities. This is what happened in 177 in Lyon, in today's France, where the locals, plagued by wars and disease, blamed the Christians for angering the gods and dragged them to the authorities for punishment. Most Christians were imprisoned, some were tortured, and about 48 were killed. Other times, persecution came directly from the emperors. Even the worst persecutions, however, failed to stop the Christians, who believed that dying for their faith was an honor. Those who died because of their faith were called martyrs, from a Greek word meaning witnesses. The Christians' courage and devotion were a witness of their faith and drew others to the gospel. The first general persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire happened in 249 under Emperor Decius, who demanded everyone's participation in sacrifices to the gods, even if it was just by eating the meat of sacrificial animals. Those who obeyed received a certificate called a libellus. Those who were found without a libellus were imprisoned.